This is the plaintiff, Tyrone Jones. He says he worked as a roofer for the defendant's company, and that guy's stiffing him on some of his pay. He's 57 years old. He lugged shingles up a ladder onto a slanted roof, and he deserves every penny of the money he was promised. So he's suing him here and now for the $162 he's still due. This is the defendant, Charles Scott. He says the plaintiff has a problem telling time because if he called him to be at a job at 9 o'clock, the guy would show up at 8 and is now expecting to be paid for those extra hours. The plaintiff's an older gentleman. He tried to help him out by giving him some work, paid him in full. Now the bum is suing him? The nerve. He's accused of shorting an employee.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff's a roofer who says the defendant stiffed him, but the defendant says the plaintiff's a slacker and he's been paid in full. It's the case of raising the roof.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome,
okay, Tyrone Jones, you are suing Charles Scott for $162, a balance that you say you are owed, and that he shorted you when he hired you to help him with some roofs. Tell me about that.
Yes, that's correct. I met Charles. I was walking down the street. He was doing a roof, and I asked him, did he need some help? So he said, yeah. So he gave me his number, and I called him. So.
Did you have roofing experience?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So the next week or so, I got in touch with him, so we started on our first job, which was.
How many people were on that job?
The first day, it was just him and I.
Okay, and then the next day?
The next day was another gentleman. But he just stayed for like maybe an hour, 2 hours or so. And it was just him and I.
Okay, and then you got paid for that job, and how much did you get paid?
$255.
And what were you supposed to get paid?
$364.
And how do you figure? How would you keep track of your hours?
Well, since we only worked a couple of days, so I would write them down.
So every day you would write something?
Right.
Not one day you wrote everything?
No, not one day.
Okay, let me see that.
No.
Because it kind of has a look of something that was written all at once because it's all in the same ink and with no variation in
Well, this happened in February, so when I was at home, I just rewrote it.
Okay, well, that's exactly what my question was. In any event, so then you started on a second job.
Yes.
And according to you, he shorted you then too.
Yes.
How much did he short you that time?
The second roof was $70.
Okay, so according to you, you have been shorted $162, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and now let me hear from you. What's your response to that?
When I start my jobs, every morning I text my wife what time we show up there. There's a couple, I have texts all over my phone from this gentleman stating that like a couple times he showed up early. I don't pay people just to show up and do whatever they want to do. There's a couple times at the end of the day, there's the other dude that he's talking about is Ken, that is his name, and he was there more than 1 or 2 days. I believe he was there like 2 or 3 days, honestly, on the job. The second job, he was there every day.
The third guy you're talking about? Ken,
yes, Ken is his name. And he's the one that explained to me that as I ran his store, he would, or as I ran to like Home Depot or whatever I had to do during the day, he would run to the store. The one day he's sitting in the truck with my gas.
Wait, who's he? You're using too many pronouns. I don't know who you're talking about.
This gentleman right here, I apologize.
Ken explained to you that when you would run to the store, what would happen?
I went to Home Depot one time.
Right.
So then he chose to just leave the job.
He being who? The plaintiff?
The plaintiff, yeah.
Did what?
Left the job.
And did
what? Went to a store, did whatever he did. I have no idea how long he was gone.
Okay, but a store having nothing to do with the job.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like just going, getting something to drink or whatever. There were several times that the plaintiff was smoking cigarettes. I told him that first, we don't smoke on the roof. Then he stopped that. Then he'd be on the ground. He couldn't carry bundles. He couldn't really do the job. I was trying to help him out. I told him I'd start him at 10. He wanted 12. I told him I'd work with him on the 12.
Well, no, you told him you'd pay him 12.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
So that all started out like that. He couldn't do the job.
Why couldn't he do that? Wait, stop. Why couldn't he do the job?
He just couldn't handle the job.
Meaning he couldn't handle it how?
Physically, he couldn't handle the job.
How?
Physically.
I know, but that's a conclusion. I need you to tell me factually what led you to believe that the man couldn't handle the job.
Well, he wouldn't. Basically, he stayed on the ladder on the front of the roof. He stayed on the ladder. On the back of the roof, he wouldn't get up on the steeper part of the roof. He'd only stay down on the flat part of the roof. So I was up there doing all that by myself. Then
he wouldn't. What would he tell you? I'm afraid. What would he say? Or you just chose the top part and he chose the bottom part?
I just seen that he couldn't do it, so I asked him to go down there and just start that. So then when I took lunch, I told him, I said, do you want to take lunch? He says, I don't want to take lunch because you're making me look so bad, basically, that he wanted to try, you know, and go longer or whatever. So then one day he wasn't even there, and I had to shut my job down. I had to chase around on the east side, and I met him on East 55th to pick him up so he could actually make it to work. So I lost hours there trying to help this gentleman out.
So if an employee does a lousy job, can the employer withhold wages?
Legally, no.
That's all I care about. What do you say?
No.
You say no, even if it's a crappy job and worthless.
No, it's not okay.
Okay, we will find out going inside the courtroom.
Can I see your phone?
Yes, you can.
I'd like to see, what I want to see is during the time of these jobs, I want to see the text between you and your wife. Like the ones you told me about that I know exactly how much time there was because I always text my wife when I get there so that I have a record of it later.
Okay, here's the
Because it seems so much easier to just write it down. New guy Tyrone, 9:30 start. Thank you. I'm going to lunch. Okay. I want the Galaxy S9. It says 4 p.m. stop time. She texts you that. That's weird because you're the one who should be texting her about.
I probably called her.
Yeah. And he does exactly what he said. You have text, Tyrone went to lunch. Yeah. I start, I stop, and whatever else. Look, you can stop. These cases are very, very hard to prove, and I am very, very sensitive to them because I see this all the time where, you know, I have to be careful that a contractor, as it were, is not subbing work to people and abusing them, because I see that all the time in Miami. I see it all the time, where people don't get paid and then they end up getting, you know, I'm constantly having, you know, people come up to me and say, what can I do about this? And it's so hard to prove because you don't clock in and clock out. And so, and according to you, you're like virtually the only employee. And so it's very, very, I have to be careful that you're not abusing of people and shortchanging them. And you know, the worst stuff I see, people just don't get paid. And then that side moves on to another city, and then someone worked for weeks and weeks. And I always tell them the same thing, why are you keep working if you think you got shortchanged? So your proof problems, your kind of case is very hard to prove. And it's not that he stiffed you, it's that according to you, he didn't pay you enough. But at the end of the day, I've got to figure out whose testimony to trust on how many hours. You know, not that either of you have a great method, but he at least has a method, which is the texting back and forth. But even if he didn't have that method, the burden of proof when you come to court is on your side. And people have been able to prove these kinds of cases before by either, you know, showing me testimony, which I guess you don't have, certainly not in the first case, from other people who were in their same boat who also got shortchanged, who can testify about how many hours you worked, showing me affidavits or the testimony of the homeowner. You're not in that position, I understand, but I hope you understand. You've come to court and you've said, trust me, judge, not him, and then he's saying, no, trust me. And it's just a he said, he said. It's very hard to prove. And you're the one with the burden of proving it. That means that I cannot find in your favor unless I find that it is more likely than not the way you are saying, and I just can't find that on this evidence. So my verdict in this case is for the defendant.
Well, the plaintiff fails to win his case. Mr. Jones, you heard the judge. She said yours is a very kind of hard case for her to decide, and you didn't have enough evidence for her.
Well,
you understand?
Yes.
So I feel sorry for you, but, you know, geez, it didn't work out.
Okay.
Okay? Be careful next time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now here comes Mr. Scott. I'm intrigued to know, why do you text your wife everything? Is she your secretary making notes?
She handles all my accounting stuff and everything. But it seems like if I send it to her, then I have that in the text, you know what I mean? And it's accountable. I can go back, I can look at my phone, I can see what's going on, so then I know the hours. I normally try to verify everything with people, but it was just a little different with him, and I apologize it didn't work out.
Well, look, it was in your favor. She makes a list of this afterwards, so you have a record, I guess?
Yeah, I have a record of everything, every job that I've ever done, every payment I've ever made. I 1099 everybody. I have paperwork on that. I have applications on all these people.
So it works.
I don't know. Yeah,
You got a good system.
It works.
All right,
it
good
works,
enough.
so.
Congratulations.
Thank you
Thank you very much. All right. Keeping good records. He does it, Harvey. What do you think?
Okay, you know, this happens a lot. The fact is, an employee can be awful. The employer still has to keep them, pay them their full wages. The remedy for the employer is simple: fire them.